everyone. My name is Ravi. I'm the co-founder CEO of Zeeve. And today on Web3 Voice by Zeeve, we have very exciting member on the show, Martin Eckardt, who is the Senior Director of Developer Relations at Avalanche. So hi, Martin. I would like to welcome you to Web3 Voice by Zeeve.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so Martin, before we get onto the deeper topics of Avalanche L1s and Appchains and adoption and so on and so forth in the Web3 space, a bit about your journey in Web3 so far, a bit of your introduction and your journey so far.
Yeah, I joined the Web3 community a couple of years back, just traditionally through hackathons. So started as a builder in the ecosystem, got really amazed by the fundamentals and the stack, and then eventually I joined the Avalanche community at one of their summits, and yeah, just got deeper and deeper into the stack and got really amazed by the layer one thesis. And since then, I joined as a developer relations engineer and eventually took over the team, and I'm now working as a senior director at Ava.
Oh, that's very exciting. And I think Avalanche today is one of the biggest and the chain which has got one of the largest adoption as far as smart contract platforms are concerned. And we saw that, recently there was a massive upgrade in August, September last year that happened on the main chain as well as to the whole subnet proposition and subnet stack. So would you like to talk about some of the upgrades that happened and the results that we are seeing based on those updates?
Yeah, 100%. So the Etna upgrade and the campaign that is called Avalanche 9000 really brought a lot of changes to Avalanche, which is a multi-chain network. So it brought some changes to the multi-chain aspect, but also we have a primary network and most commonly known the C chain, which is the public permissionless chain of the Avalanche network. And it also brought performance improvements to that. So as a result of that, the cost for issuing transactions on the C chain dramatically dropped, and also the economic barrier and also the complexity of launching your own blockchain, your own layer one blockchain in the Avalanche network, also dramatically dropped. And we all did this by still keeping like all these nice properties, fast finality that is faster than a second, and the interoperability between the chains that does not rely on any third parties or like complicated mechanisms, and still settled super fast, also in below just in a matter of seconds. So it was an exciting upgrade. It was definitely the largest we've done since the mainnet launch, and we're very glad that it's now live on mainnet, and the first projects are already adopting it and launching L1s in the Avalanche network.
No, I think that's a very interesting development. And in fact, we have been reading a lot of news about this, how there has been a 75% gas fee reduction on doing a transaction on the C chain, as well as, we are seeing massive developer adoption happening. More than 35% uptake has happened in just last couple of months. So I think that's something very motivating and encouraging for the Avalanche ecosystem. And on
Yeah.
the L1, I think I remember about a few months back, I had about August, September last year, I had a talk show with John Nahas, and we were talking about some of the challenges startups as well as enterprises are facing adopting Avalanche subnets, the Appchain stack. And I think so he talked at length about the upcoming upgrades. And I think we at Z, who are one of the implementation partners for Avalanche, Appchain stack, the Avalanche L1s, are very, very excited to see some of these upgrades happen where the model has changed from CAPEX to OPEX and a lot of other changes which had made the infrastructure very leaner. So a bit more about what Avalanche L1 looks like, what are the core value propositions of L1s, and what more upgrades and updates that we are going to see in future.
Yeah. So before the update, there were Avalanche subnets, and the high-level idea here is that validators would have multiple roles, right? Like they would all have the same role. They would be a primary network validator, and therefore, to fulfill this role, they also had to fulfill the primary network staking requirements. That means every validator had to stake 2,000 AVAX. right? And then the validators can take on additional roles, for example, becoming a subnet validator here. And then, for that role, they may have to suffice additional staking requirements. And the upgrade really turned that whole idea around. And now we are living in a world where validators don't hold multiple roles, but they are either a primary network validator or an L1 validator. And that really changes the game for many teams building on Avalanche, because now, since the validators do not have to fulfill that role anymore and fulfill these staking requirements of the primary network, the cost to join as a validator dramatically dropped. So the 2,000 AVAX staking requirement was removed for these L1 validators, while it maintains for the primary network validators. But to launch an L1 now does not require this massive capital and this massive capital to stake 2,000 AVAX. But it also, just massively simplifies, for example, the hardware requirements for a validator, because, now a validator just has one specific role that does not have, is not validating multiple chains, but just a single one. So all of these combined here really makes the Avalanche L1 stack much, much quicker and easier to adopt, and also easier to maintain.
Got it. No, I think this is super, super exciting, and we are already seeing a lot of traction coming in. We have been outreaching to a lot of interactions that we had in last couple of years. And because, the startup ecosystem, when we talk about startups, they are always worried about upfront cost and ongoing cost of running infrastructure. And I think some of these upgrades are very, very helpful for these startups to jumpstart and get started with their app chains or their custom blockchains. So, Martin, just to talk a bit brief about the whole app chain value proposition. So traditionally, we have seen that people deploy their dApps. Somebody building a DeFi app or a gaming app, or even in the they tend to deploy their dApps on a public chain, whether it be Ethereum, Avalanche, or any other public chain. And then, we started seeing the concept of app chains, application specific chains. Now, if you see enterprises on one end, they have always used to launch app chains. The term app chain was not there, but we have been working with enterprises since 2019. And there was always, you need to set up a permission network for your specific application. So they were essentially, from a definition perspective, it was an app chain. And but now the startups have also started looking at, because they may have a requirement of high performance, high throughput. They may want to have low congestion or control over gas fee. And then among the enterprises, we are seeing challenges of data privacy, so that they can actually look towards decentralized frameworks to build their blockchains. So, how do you see this app chain philosophy and app chain concept coming up with a strong value proposition that we are seeing a lot more startups as well as enterprises are looking at launching their app chains rather than just looking at deploying their dApps on a public chain?
Yeah, I think so from a user perspective, right? Like ideally there shouldn't be any difference, right? Like the user will connect their wallet or not even know that they have a wallet and interact with a blockchain. It really is what happens under the hood, right? And
Right.
the you can really think of it as a divide and conquer approach, right? If you host multiple applications on a single blockchain, right? Like there are interdependencies, right? Like every blockchain has a limited throughput, meaning that, like it can only process that many transactions. So if the activity on one blockchain massively picks up and therefore the blockchain get congested or the transaction fees rise, that has an effect on all the applications on that chain, right? So it's really a trade-off here to make that, like maybe, like why not move if there's significant interest in an application, why not move it to its own dedicated blockchain and kind of like have kind of like this exclusive space here for the users to interact with that application without competing over block space with other applications. And this really shows, especially in times, I don't know, we all remember probably the NFT craze on Ethereum, where there were drops and the entire network was unusable for days, or especially in the bull market when it picked up, and Uniswap costs $200. All right, like so, moving to your own chain prevents all that. Your transaction fees are completely independent. That is really relevant for everything that is gaming, right? Like that needs low transaction fees that is independent of any market conditions. And they just need a guarantee that, like the transaction fee just not double or 10x over certain events that they have no influence on. Another option why people go on chain on their own chain is definitely compliance, right? Like, so these public permissionless chains can be the wild, wild west, and it is really difficult to make sure you're compliant there. So we see some institutions that move on their own permission blockchains, and they want to use the tech, but they want to use it in a compliant way. So, for example, they can make sure that all the users on that chain can interact with it permissionlessly, but have gone through a KYC process. And furthermore, that all providers on that chain, maybe multiple service providers offer their services on that chain, but all providers have gone through a KYB process. So yeah, this is really a big reason for many institutions to choose an L1 chain, because they can really argue this is a complete compliant chain that doesn't have any interdependencies with compliance risks.
No, absolutely. I think we agree to all very interesting points that you have laid out. And if we see the gamut of customers or builders, like on the native side, you rightly said, user experience becomes super, super important. And to have the desired user experience, whether it be NFT marketplace or a DeFi app or a payment app, they may want to have gasless transactions. They may want to have, other integrations in place, like you mentioned about native interoperability, which becomes very, very important for cross-chain liquidity. So user experience requirement, high performance, better control over the gas configs, etc., becomes very, very important for these DeFi startups. And on the enterprise side, data privacy, data compliances, other regulations become super important. One use case like Remedy is one big builder on Avalanche L1. They are into healthcare space. So of course, they require very strong data compliances, which again is enabled by the way data layer can be architected, whichever way you want, based on the compliance requirements on L1s. Similarly, if you see, we have enterprise consortiums running on L1s. So as you rightly said, permission chains where they want to have, they still want to use the latest stack, which is continuously updated, upgraded, newer developments, plethora of integrations which are readily available today. So that makes it very, very important as compared to the permission stacks of yesterday. And at the same time, they can create their own flavors. If they want fully permission, they want consortium-led approach where only 50 or 100 participants can run the validator nodes and take care of the governance of the chain, they can do that. And that I think is amazing and beautiful about L1, that it gives you a complete spectrum, starting from fully public permissionless to permissioned, and somewhere in between, whichever way you want to architect it or design
Yeah.
it or configure it.
Yeah, that is really for many teams it's a journey, right? Like like maybe in a initial phase where you just go to market, like L1 that has a small validator set that is permission to a certain degree makes sense. But like you're really not locked in. So you can just, like make your way on that path to decentralization. Like decentralize your validator set over time. All these like implement staking. That is all not set in stone. You can just, naturally evolve your L1 to, like the desired level of decentralization eventually, and hand more and more over to the community, which is, I think, really exciting. And we're already seeing that with the first L1s now. And it's an exciting journey. It's also a great tool for these companies to like add a whole different value to their token, right? Like if it's suddenly not only a governance token, but actually you can use the token as to pay for transaction fees or as a staking token. And that really helps kind of like the entire community and company to evolve.
No, absolutely. So now we have a very exciting Avalanche L1 stack. We have, lots of integrations that are available. We have a very leaner infrastructure requirements. You do not require heavy nodes to run it. The model is more of OpEx now, so you do not require 2000 AVEX. So the stage is all set, and there's a massive adoption already. There are hundreds of L1s already running across native Web3 as well as enterprises. One piece which again become very important is that for startups and for enterprises, they do require the infrastructure to be managed in such a way that it become easy to build, launch, and deploy and run your or manage your app chains very effectively. And that is where, our proposition, Zeeve Cogitus, we launched a product specifically for this, launching the L1. So what do you think? What are your views? How important it is for builders to have such a platform which enables them to, take out or abstract the entire infrastructure layer so they can still focus on deploying their dApps, running and building their business rather than focusing on the infrastructure?
Yeah, I think this is like really what we see with builders is that especially like the initial phase of launching the L1, if that is facilitated by a partner, it just massively reduces the complexity for the builders and helps them to get started really quickly. Like within, like a couple hours, you can spin up, let or have someone spin up your L1. You're ready to go, have all the infrastructure in place. And there's a really big difference also to layer twos here, right? Like if you have if you launch a layer two with a rollup provider, right? Like it is somewhat limited of how much control you have over that. But like with L1s, like it's not winner takes all, right? Like there can be like setups where like the rollup provider or the blockchain as a service provider runs some validators for you, stands up the chain, and then like maybe you run some validators on premises, and it's kind of like a collaboration between you and one provider or even multiple providers. And every provider here can bring their own services into the mix. Maybe someone is specialized on account abstraction, others are specialized on indexing. So it's really, like you can use all the strength of different providers to help stand your chain up and then, like provide all kinds of services around that chain and really kickstart, like how fast you can build your product. And that brings you in a position where you don't have to worry about the different stacks. You don't have to understand how it works or how to maintain it. You can have it decentralized, maintained by your community and rollout providers, and then you can really focus on your application logic, and you don't have to worry about infrastructure or anything like it, while maintaining decentralization for your chain and your community.
Yep, no, absolutely. I think you have raised some very important points that a builder needs to take care of when they are engaging with a partner like us. So there are some core features, of a platform like Cogitus, is that it helps you deploy your chain, set up your configs, you can customize it also, and then post deployment, you have your monitoring dashboards and management dashboards, etc. But that's something which is very standard offering. But at the same time, one thing that because we have been running app chains for the last 4 years, different stacks, L1s, L2s, L3s. But one thing we have realized is that, we need to give comfort to enterprises or whether it be a native Web3 startups. There should not be any lock-in. And that is the philosophy that we come on with. We provide a very reliable infrastructure, but without lock-in. We are the only player in the market to provide BYOC, which is bring your own cloud. So you do everything using our platform, still you can deploy or run your L1 on your own cloud environment. That gives you absolute control. That means that, everything is running within your environment, and still we are taking away all the hassles and pains of running up and managing a chain, whether it be updates, upgrades, whether it be 24/7 monitoring, customer support, SLAs, everything is taken care of. And at the same time, we bring in 50 plus integration partners, whether it be account abstraction or interoperability or on-ramp, off-ramp, wallet infrastructure, whatever is required by the startup, depending on their use case. So I think, and then a lot of co-marketing and community building efforts and connections to the Web3 ecosystem, especially for the newer startups. And then on the other hand, for the enterprises, massive expertise on managing compliances and privacy areas for various industries that we have worked with in telecom and financial services and healthcare. I think make so you have raised very some important concerns that typically a builder would have, and I think we are trying very hard to take care of each of those concerns so that we become a partner but at the same time, there is no lock-in to us. So they want to add more validators. They want to run validators on their own. They want to bring in other blockchain as a service providers to collaborate on the network. Everything is completely open. So I think we work on that philosophy, and I think it was a great feedback from your side also, and we'll continue to take effort in that side so that end of the day, the builder should feel more and more comfortable working with the infrastructure provider. So, Martin, now, we are very excited about ETH Denver coming in few weeks' time. We are hosting the Rollup and Appchain Day, and Avalabs is our co-host. So, what kind of any insights about Avalanche L1 stack that you would like to share here? Any new updates that are coming in? We are very excited to host that Avalabs is co-hosting with us, and team from your side would be joining us.
Yeah. Yeah, we are incredibly excited because ETH Denver will be the first very large conference after our massive upgrade. So it will be the first time that many builders will get their eyes on this new tech stack that really evolved over the past few months. And we are extremely excited to do that with you together. And I think like if we look a little bit into the future, like what we are currently working on heads down is Avalanche is a very flexible network, right? Like the developers have a lot of control over the entire stack. So meaning they can not only, just launch the L1, but they can, tweak it to exactly what they need. So we are super excited to explore more stuff that is, going beyond the EVM and that also supports different execution environments. And we're super excited about just doing more work in that and possibly revealing some at ETH Denver.
Absolutely looking forward to it. Thomas, Ghan, me, we all would be there at ETH Denver. And we are also looking forward to the Avalanche Summit in London in May or June. I think we are again looking forward to that event. So I think it would be very exciting year. We have a very ambitious target of launching quite a few L1 chains this year. We have already started. I think January was pretty good. So seeing a lot of traction with these updates, upgrades, and leaner infrastructure. I think is we are already seeing the early signs that it's a game changer. So Martin, I think we are pretty much at the end of this space. So what is your vision for Avalanche in the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you see, how the app chain ecosystem is evolving, the L1 landscape is evolving, and how, Avalanche is keeping pace with the emerging trends or the competition that is coming in the blockchain space?
Yeah. So what I hope for the next 3 to 5 years is really this network effect kick in for the Avalanche network, right? Like so currently we have around 50 L1s, and I think that is a great start. And if you had asked me a while ago if I would have thought we'd be here already, I wouldn't have believed it. But I think the network effect will really kick off once we cross like 200, 300 L1s. That user interoperability that works quick and easy, completely trustless between the L1s, no third parties, no bridging risks, like for bridge nodes or many of the hacks we've seen in the past years. I'm really excited for that. I think seeing like this network grow and this network effect picking up by L1s that are hosted with Zeeve or other providers or just completely by the community, and then like these different L1s work together and exchange liquidity. And then I think on the technical side, like exploring different execution environments, maybe we will see, like a move-based L1 eventually, or yeah. And then I think the next evolution of that is we have this North Star where we want to, like have many chains that feel as one. So really like under the hood, the infrastructure are many independent chains, but the user really can use them as if it was one massive chain and doesn't really notice how, like they are traveling between the different chains. And so that is kind of like the evolution I'm very excited about in the coming years. And yeah, we're working hard every day with our entire team and with partners like yourself. So I'm really excited to see that all come to life.
No, I absolutely love it. The way you mentioned this, I think this is what I also emphasize, that end of the day, the builder from the builder perspective, the infrastructure should be completely abstracted. they should have an interface to deploy their contract. Whether they are doing it on a public chain or their own app chain, it doesn't matter. And it should be more of a transaction led, where, based on what they want. If they want, like it's typically how it works in Web 2, I may be running a small 4-page HTML website. A shared hosting works great for me. If I'm running a bigger CRM application, I'm anticipating 100 users and 100 team members and thousands of users. I may want a dedicated machine, right? Or a bigger server infrastructure. It's pretty much that. And it should be that. But from a builder perspective, the experience should be as simple as that, deploying a contract and move forward. So I think that is the vision we share with you. I think it's an excellent way you put it in. So it was great talking to you, Martin. I think we got to know the vision of Avalanche, how it is moving, and we are very, very excited to partner with Ava Labs for Avalanche L1s. And at the same time, you being our co-host for the Rollup and Appchain Day, and looking forward to a lot of exciting developments in 2025. With that, thank
Amazing.
you. Thanks, Martin, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.